speaking of jobs, I've been unemployed for 5 months. I got laid off from my last job because we lost a big contract and like a third of the company lost their jobs. So it wasn't personal. I've been applying and the jobs that are calling me back are all below a living wage. And I can tell you up front, I am not financially ambitious. I don't plan on being a millionaire. It sounds very stressful, actually. I really only need enough money to live, to pay my bills, save for retirement, go out for a nice dinner every once in a while, buy a bottle of wine once a week. That's really it. I'm not trying to travel, a whole bunch or buy a Mercedes. I drive a Kia. I have a 1-bedroom apartment. I just want to feed my dog and buy a bubble bath. And feeling like I have to go to a soul-sucking job just to maintain that very basic lifestyle feels so draining. When I was in college, I went to school for fine arts. I wanted to be a graphic novelist or an animator at Disney or a storyboard artist. I loved storytelling.
All right, so let me pause it there. That's the tell. Oh, my heart goes out to her. So this is Bree, the Womanican. I came across her video from honestly watching another video, but I had to talk about this because really, this is the foundation of this is who I really wanted to talk to. And I don't mean directly Bree, but I mean creatives. I'm a creative. All of my friends are creatives. And you know what I see with all the creatives? All of them are out of work. All of them either came from the gaming industry or wanted to be filmmakers or animators or comic book artists, just like Bree, just like her. And it's the same story all the way across the board. Either unemployed, definitely not in their career path, and nowhere near the middle class or lower middle class stream. I mean, broke. And not because they squandered their years away or they weren't talented, for reasons totally outside of their control. And it's crazy. When I saw this video, I said, okay, I got to talk about this. I got to talk about this. So she went to school. Here's the story. She went to school to be apparently an animator. She wanted to, I think she's going to say, probably she wanted to work in Disney or something like that. Common dream. I know a bunch of friends who wanted to do that. I wanted to be a writer. I ended up in video editing. Both paths would have led to the same end result for the most part. We grew up during our time period. So let's say you came up during let's just say 90s, early aughts, early 2000s. And what you were seeing in the media is a world where these career paths were attainable. We started to see a huge explosion of content and new channels and new avenues, new comic book companies, new material. And the beast needed to be fed. So we needed to make tons of new material to feed the beast. We went from a cycle of media consumption where the TV turned on at 6 o'clock in the morning and was off by midnight to 24 hours of nonstop media, constant channels, and then the internet. So of course, there was tons of work to be had, right? It wasn't that the creator or the content itself was special. We entered an era where businesses learned that they needed as much IP as possible because IP could be monetized and then sold at scale. We didn't see that. What we saw was that we entered an era where there would always be work. Always be work. What's happening now, it's not that the work has gone away. It's not like we need less media. It's just that the businesses realized, A, they don't need to produce so much media, and B, they produce a library of content or comic books or IP where they can just keep recycling the same things over and over again. They don't need new. They've already got it. Your value has already been exploited and used. That's business. It's not evil. It's just the most efficient way to make money. So I'm listening to her story and my heart's breaking because I've seen it over and over again. Here's the thing with me. I'm this weird middle ground for creators. I'm an interpreter. I understand the creative side because I grew up with that. I wanted to be one. I still think like one. But also, I understand the business side. I totally understand it. I understand business. I had this unlock that hit me really a few years ago. And this was in the depths of poverty. I understood that this clarity hit me. Either you are making, this is a gem. Listen, either you're making a business money or you're saving a business money. Those are the two things that are most valuable
and I wanted to learn the artistic skills.
Sorry, excuse me. Those are the two things that are the most valuable to a business. Either you're making them money or you're saving them money. Otherwise, you're just a cog in the machine that is totally replaceable. It's not so easy to replace people that make them money or save them money. Everybody else, sayonara. Nice to have you. As soon as we get somebody better that can do the same thing cheaper, deuces. That's real. That's fact. It sounds brutal. It sounds terrible, but that's the world that we're in. That's business. That's a capitalist society. So when I hear her story and I talk about what she wants and what her dreams are, listen, she's not trying to be a millionaire. Most of you aren't. You just want a modest life. Look at what she's asking for. She wants to be able to have an apartment, occasionally get a bottle of wine, have her little dog, live without too much stress. Modest. She drives a Kia. She just wants a normal middle-class life. Newsflash, whether you're a creative or not, the middle-class life is evaporating anyway. You're watching the news, look all over the country. The middle class is going away. Here's the question, and I think this is the thesis of this video. When was that middle class actually built? Think about that for a second. So my parents, let me think back. My parents, I grew up in Maryland, in DC. My parents worked for the DC government, and there was stability there. So that was kind of like a bubble. That didn't represent most of America. But in a way, it kind of did. They worked for a large infrastructure. They worked for the government. If you're in the Midwest, you probably lived in a place where you worked for a plant, probably an electrical plant or a car factory. You worked for a place where you were a cog creating a big machine for mass production. Government, Toyota or Ford, whatever, right? The 80s came, the Japanese car plants, they came, they provided another thing. Everything changed when the internet came around. So go back a bit, You were either farming, you worked in farming, you were a self-made business, you were a self-entrepreneur, so you had your own store. You either worked for retail, which was growing and getting larger, so you worked for the large department stores, and you worked through the scale there. You started off an employee, you worked in management, hopefully you worked in the upper management. You worked in the social services, you were a police officer, a firefighter, a soldier, right? Or you worked in factories, or you worked in government. Those were the clear paths to a stable life, and that is what eventually created the middle class that your parents grew up with and created the foundation for what we thought was going to be. Fast forward to you grew up in an era where you start to see movies blowing up. You start to see comic books blowing up. You start to see animation blowing up, and you start to think, man, I love that and I can do that. But the minute you start talking about it, your parents go, that's not a real job. Not a real job. How do you make money doing that? I don't know. I just want to do it. How do you make money doing that? But you get in your head that that is a possible way to make money. And the reality was, it actually started to be. Because like I said earlier, these companies started realizing as the internet came about and there was a void to be filled, we could reach a larger audience, and that audience wanted to consume more and more media. That media had to be created. And we needed people to make that media. We needed those libraries filled. We needed, I worked at Viacom. So I was working with Viacom, and I worked at this company called Game Trailers at the time. And we needed to make tons of material in order to sell those video games, which were now a booming, burgeoning industry, early 2000s. All the way to what we have now with the release of Grand Theft Auto 6, which is going to be the first multi-billion-dollar game probably. This wasn't a thing in the 2000s, less than 30 years ago. It's crazy. These industries were not the norm. The thing that people have to remember, and this is painful, I hate saying it because I bought into it too. It's not the fault of the world. It's not the fault of AI. The reality is this period, this brief romantic period where a creative can make the kind of money to live comfortably, was the abnormal aberration. That was the oasis in the desert. The reality of the world was what was before. Government, factories, small business, military, social services, fireman, police officer, soldier. That was the engine that kept society going. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Before that, back in the day, artists became famous post-mortem. They weren't rich when they were alive. They were recognized after they get. That's where we got the term, give them their flowers while they're alive. Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Madonna, all those people, they weren't rich because they were dope. They were, in fact, dope. They were rich because Sony or Aristo or the companies behind them realized that they can package them, allow them to sing and dance, do what they do, and sell them at scale. They were always product. They were always business. And the creative, the animator, the editor, the whatever, never realized that they too were product. So what we have now is the conflict between the blue collar carpenter, plumber, who was always valuable and could never understood. Now I'm speaking in terrible English. Could never understand why this world existed, where you can have someone that is drawing Mickey Mouse for a living, drawing X-Men for a living, has a path to creative and economic stability. Oh God, I'm ranting now. But here's the takeaway. The problem where we all messed up is that we were looking at the outliers, the Steven Spielbergs, the Jim Lees, the actors. We were looking at those outliers and going, oh, that's got to be the normal. If they do it, then everybody can do it, because they're always going to need comics. I just have to be a good comic book artist. I just got to be a great animator. I can be in Pixar. But there was no Pixar before. Marvel comics were selling for a dime a piece, 15 cents a piece, $1.25 when I was coming up, 75 cents, $1.25. Anyway, they were selling for barely anything and not making much money. They were pulp, disposable fiction. Cartoons were just for kids to come on after school and on Saturday mornings. In order to, when did they become important? 2 periods in history that cartoons and animation become important. As propaganda machines to get young people to enlist in the military and to explain very clearly who the enemy was and what we were fighting for. Period number 1. And period number 2, the biggest period, the period that we're actually still getting echoes of today, selling toys. Again, businesses realized they could use this tool to sell this other thing, this product, at scale. So when did that all change? In the early 2000s, smart marketing businesses realized we can take those IPs, those things that we created that were originally selling candy and toys, and we can take those things themselves and make them the product, the intellectual property. And we can make movies and media and songs about those things and make a ton of money. And it made sense to think that this would go on forever. This probably would be the new normal if AI and AI didn't come in and change the game. AI created a place where it took, I don't want to say the essence because that makes it a little bit too soulful, but it took the mechanics of the artistry of things that were being created and found a way to replicate them at scale. That's it. Here's an example. For a very brief period, I loved photography. I still do love photography. And I remember thinking, man, I'm going to make some money doing wedding photography, because wedding photography is high emotion. People want their emotional experience captured in a way that they will never forget, so they can look at their memories for years to come. Here's the thing though. two things happened that I started to really understand the relationship between money and value, creativity and value. Number one, people say they want those memories to look beautiful and be captured beautifully. But when you start assigning dollar amounts to them, that's when people start going, hold up. Really? Is that expensive? The memory is timeless. How you capture it is timeless. But then when you start adding a dollar to it, they go, well, maybe I don't have to have the photos be that great. They can be good enough. And then those people really never really look at the photos again. Now, the ones that do pay the money for the big photos or the grand video, yeah, they value it. They can clearly see the difference. But the average person, and here's the bridge, the average person isn't going to, they acknowledge that there is a considerable increase in quality, but they are not willing to assign that increase in quality to a financial number that makes them comfortable. They rather scale that quality down and justify it financially. It's not a judgment. It's not bad or good. It's just how most people think. Because historically, creative things don't have financial value. That's the truth. So what do we do about it? Let's keep listening because I got a solution. This is the truth that I came to the more I talked to business people and the more I heard the same thing over and over again from creatives. Check this out. Let's keep listening.
Skills to be able to do that. And you know what I imagine my life would be like? I thought, I'd work in an office and I'd have colleagues. We'd all talk and make friends. Mostly, I pictured my office looking like the office from Just Shoot Me. I know nobody has to remember that. It's super obscure. It's from the 90s. That was my first introduction to David Spade. Probably for the rest of you, the only thing you know about David Spade, which you probably might not have even known, is that he's the voice of Cusco from The Emperor's New Groove. But, I thought I'll get a degree. I'll get a good paying job. I'll work with other creative people and everything will just work out. I genuinely thought that that's what adult life was going to look like.
All right. So I want to touch on that a little bit. So I feel her because I went through a lot of that myself. Colleges are made, and this is no shade on colleges. Colleges are made to create. Colleges are made to fill in the gaps in institutions. If we need more thinkers to solve problems, we have degrees and help condition the thought processes, the relationships, and the product of people in that direction to solve those problems. During the period of the 90s, there appeared to be a hole that needed to be filled with a great number of creatives. Very recently, that hole has been filled by AI, and the spaces for all of these creatives that have spent all this money on college are fewer and fewer than they've ever been before. And eventually, we're going to get to the pre-internet numbers where the average person that was working in those fields, like a Stan Lee or the average newspaper writer or newspaper photographer, magazine photographer, the average, not the exception, the average is basically only making the amount of money that the paper basically asserts that they bring in, the value they bring into the paper. Not about their quality, but directly how much value does this photograph, for example, bring to this magazine? Or more succinctly put, does this photo equal more sales for this magazine? Now, magazine is a dead medium, so that's a bad example, but I think you get the picture. Does your direct output equal a direct and quantifiable number in sales? Does it bring me more money? That's where we're going to go. We're going back to that because that's what it's always been. We just thought it was going to be something new when it was really something old. This girl wants a regular life. And we've been trained, and here's the rub, and here's where I'm going to end this video. We have been training ourselves to fit within a system that needs creative people, or whatever your industry is, insert creative, but it could be anything. It could be, right now it's looking like software engineers, looking like programmers. That's the new creative industry, or at least the new killed or exploited creative industry. We've been trained to be put in the world, to position ourselves in the world. We're asking, hire me. Where do I fit in? Here's what I can do. I can be a comfortable cog in your machine. But they don't need that anymore. They've got AI systems to do it. And what AI can't do, they need fewer workers. And the ones that they do hire can actually use AI to compensate for the workers they're not hiring anymore. So they're ultimately saving a lot of money and getting the maximum amount of value for the minimum amount of people. That's real. So the question that you guys need to ask yourselves, and I don't care if you're a creative or not, instead of asking, how can I fit in? Ask, what value do I bring? I get it. I know that's a broad question. So let's make that real. How am I, you remember, how am I making money for the company or for myself? Or how am I saving money, proving that I can save you lots of money for the company because I've done it myself. And this is why you need to hire me. This is what I do. Instead of thinking long term, start thinking in short term, high value. Okay, you want me? You want to wring every bit of knowledge I have to make you lots of money and bring you lots of money and bring you lots of clients? Okay, bet we could do that. I'm only going to be here for a couple of years. You're going to pay me a gang of money. You're going to pay me a lot of money. It's not about what I can get from you. It's about what we can get from each other. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not about what you can get from me. It's about what I can get from you and how we can help each other. That is a reciprocal business relationship. Before it wasn't quite like that. Before it was more like frankly, a place doing you a favor. I'm bringing you in, but I can get 1,000 more just like you. Ooh, this has been a long video, but this is key. I'm getting this off my chest because this is something I've wanted to talk about for a while. This is near and dear to me, and this video just made me think about it very deeply. We are definitely in a new era. And the thing that people really never ask themselves is, how do you reposition yourself to win? Not abandon what you have, not abandon what you know, not abandoning your passions or what you love. But how do you take that and reposition yourself so that you can use that knowledge, that skill, that experience, that passion, and frame it in such a way that you add value? We're constantly selling ourselves. Don't fool yourself. We're constantly selling ourselves. The question is, are we selling ourselves out to be exploited? Are we showing ourselves and revealing how much we really bring to the table? And not just why you want to work with me, but why I want to work with you. Real talk. Most creators don't think like that. That's something we should be thinking about. For example, you have a business, you have a law firm, right? They still exist. You have a law firm, and there are internal things that they need to explain to their future clients and their future employees. Complicated matters that need to be processed through or translated from legalese into plain language. Now, a good writer can show that I know exactly how to do that. Not just that I went to college and I know how to do it. No, I know exactly how to do it. I understand what you're doing, and I understand how to, between my knowledge and AI, write it in such a way that it becomes clear. I'll take it further. We can animate some of these concepts. This is where your animator becomes important. Creating clarity and entertainment in a way that the concepts stick. And now we need a video editor to package it in such a way that we can use it and use it as training material over and over again for years to come. Creatives figuring out where they are positioned in this new world, not waiting to be hired, but looking at where their value fits not in the traditional places that they were told and sold that they should be, but looking at where their value fits everywhere and then negotiating that value at the highest price. Anyway, I hope this video was valuable to you. If you are creative or someone who is not sure where we are in these uncertain AI times, stop looking at AI as an enemy and look at it as a tool to advance you where you need to be. This video and many of my videos were made with the help of AI because I'm a one-man operation. If you have a comment, leave it in the comments. Hopefully this is of value to you. See you in the next video. Peace.